Hey there, I'm Adrienne. Welcome back to Better Days Start Today. Today we're going to talk about success. This is an interesting topic in the fact that success could mean so many different things depending on the person defining success for themselves. The interesting thing is, so often we chase the definition of success that somebody else set for us. So we're going to explore the idea of success, how it can vary from person to person, how it varies in one phase of life versus another phase of life, and giving ourselves the space, the self-compassion, and the grace that we need to change and evolve so we can continuously redefine what success is for us. So at any given point of our lives, we're not chasing this outdated version of where we think we should be in life. I looked up the definition of success just to kick us off, get us all on the same page. The definition, a couple popped up. One, a favorable or desired outcome. The second, the achieving of the results wanted or hoped for. The third, something that achieves positive results. Essentially, success boils down to achieving a desired outcome, achieving the results that you want. So when we have this generalized definition of success in our minds that is informed from different people in our lives, society standards, are we really going after a result or outcome that we want, or a result or outcome that we're expected to have, that we're expected to achieve? So if we're going to talk about success, or you're going to hope or wish or strive for success, the first thing you have to do is decide, what does success mean to you? What does it mean to you? What does success look like? Who are you if you are successful? How does it feel? What are the feelings that you experience as a successful person? In order to bring this vision to life, we have to just start with the basics. What can you do today to get there? So if you have a journal or you want to revisit these questions later, what does success mean to you? Who are you when you're successful? How does it look to be successful? What does it feel like? What can you do today to get there? Success is entirely subjective. It's a highly individualized process that's shaped by personal experiences, values, and your perspective of life beyond traditional measures or societal expectations. It is essential, and I briefly mentioned it, but it is essential to acknowledge that our definition of success can constantly change. We as humans are always going through life changes. This podcast, Better Days Start Today, is all about weathering the tough times, deciding what's next after you go through a challenging life transition or event. Who are you on the other side of difficult times? Who do you want to become? So if we're constantly changing and we're constantly going through life changes, all of those changes are going to inform our viewpoints of who we are, how we orient ourselves in the world, how we view the idea of success. It's that idea that success is a journey, not a fixed destination. This is a concept that I have been contemplating in such a big way. I love the question, what would you do if you knew you would fail? I've been sharing that with different groups I've been talking to. And the reason for that is because if your actions weren't dependent on an outcome, how would you spend your time? Who would you surround yourself with? What would you do? And that allows you to really examine the journey that you want to be on rather than that destination you're hoping to achieve. We change, our view of success changes. I think about myself as a kid. I wrote an autobiography in 5th grade, and it talked about, what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to achieve? Who do you want to become? This is me in my childhood lens of what I wanted to do. One of the things that was on there was I wanted to become a detective. This was informed by my love of Nancy Drew And I loved the idea of solving cases, which equated to basically solving puzzles for a living to me. And that early desire kind of shaped some of my choices, and I ended up in law enforcement for 12 years. Another thing in that autobiography was I wanted to write a book. I loved books. I still love books. I'm reading all of the time, all different types of books. So I wanted to be an author. And I actually published a book, Scattered Thoughts on Loss, Grief Haikus. And that's kind of about my emotional journey grappling with my mom's lung cancer diagnosis. So I set these goals and I achieved them, right? That positive or desired outcome. So I've reached success. I would say when I was in law enforcement, being in law enforcement or kind of working in that enforcement capacity isn't what made me feel successful. The thing that made me feel successful was helping others first see the potential within them and then reach that potential. That's a big part of how I came about becoming a coach. I found that one of my passions, one of my gifts, is helping people to see their unlived life, what they want for themselves, and how they can bring that to life. I would say when I was in high school, I thought I was going to become a high-powered lawyer living in a high-rise in New York. But then I also had this competing desire to go to college in California because of Saved by the Bell and the working at the Malibu beach resort, and just like living this carefree life by the beach became like this thing in my mind of if I could go to school and be by the beach, I would be living life and feeling the things that I thought they were feeling in that show, that I watched often when I was young. So I had this idea of, okay, go to college in California, but then the goal in my mind was still to become this lawyer where I'd be living in a high-rise in Manhattan. Well, I went to school in California, achieved the goal, the desired outcome, right? Like college me, like I was living the life I desired. And along the way, I realized that slower pace of life, living in Orange County, living near beaches, I liked that so much more than the faster paced life that I lived growing up in Boston. So that left me with something to kind of grapple with. This is changing. I've been exposed to something new. I lived in a way I never had before. And all of a sudden, my desires and my goals were shifting. These are just a few small examples, right? But as we go through different phases in life, we experience new things. We see life in a different way. We start to realize that we might want something other than what we thought we wanted. You can't see what you don't know or you don't understand. If you have no experience, no frame of reference, you haven't even dared to dream it yet, you can't know to desire it or to want it, so it may not fit into your definition of success. By allowing ourselves the ability to be open to the idea that it's subjective and it evolves, our definition of success can change with us, which is super important because we're not going to get stuck in this fixed idea of what it is and who we need to become to achieve it. As we evolve, success evolves. I've come to realize that success is built through good habits. And by that, I mean, if we have a desired outcome, a way that we want to live, a way that we want to show up in the world, a way of being in the world, we need to put into practice the things that will help us become that version of ourselves. So when we're selecting the ways that we spend our time today, the best way to do that is to think through the lens of, if I was that successful version of myself, what does that person do every day, and start bringing those things into our life. It's kind of reverse engineering the dream. It's important to prioritize the things that the successful version of you would do. And you don't have to adopt them all immediately. If you do too much too soon, you'll probably give up and get stuck in this version of you of like hoping that could be a reality, but not making it a reality. The point of this conversation is to get you to look at your definition of success. You can't arrive at the destination if you don't know where you're going. If you curate a journey that you want to be on, it almost doesn't matter if you actually reach the destination, but it gives you a direction to go in. I wanted to have this conversation because I think it is important for us to check in with ourselves and explore if we are on the path that we're intentionally creating for ourselves, or if we've fallen into some mode of default where we're chasing somebody else's version of success. Do you know what success means to you? Do you know how you would show up if you leaned into that version of your life? If you attained whatever that success is for you? Do you know how you'd show up in the world? Have you thought about how you can show up in that way right now, even if you don't feel like you have lived into your version of success? This is really an opportunity to just examine the path that we're on and if we're intentionally curating that path. One of the things that makes people the most unhappy is chasing after a life that's not theirs. And sometimes I don't think we realize that we're doing that because we don't stop long enough to examine the path that we're on, the choices that we're making, how we're responding to the circumstances outside of ourselves. We're not giving us the time, the space, the grace to take a pause and evaluate if this path that we're on is still the path for us, or do we suddenly want to take a different direction? And on top of that, are we allowing the taking of a new direction to be okay? So all of this to say, give yourself a few minutes to reflect on the idea of what does success mean to you at this phase of your life. If you hold up the image of success when you were a child, when you were a teenager, a young adult, an adult that reached success in whatever career path they chose, but then suddenly felt unfulfilled, and now maybe you're on a new path and you're however long into the new path, wherever you are in your life, are you living into your version of success? Are you allowing that to evolve with you and for you throughout your life? So the questions I invite you to explore: what does success mean to you? How do you show up in the world when you're living into your version of success? What does it look like to be successful? How does it feel? What can you do today to get there? And my other favorite question is, what would you do if you knew that you would fail? Then it becomes about the journey. I often choose the topics of my podcast based on the questions that people are asking me, people are asking in groups that I'm a part of. And one of the things I've seen lately is women beating themselves up for not being where they should be in life and citing all of these things that life has thrown at them. And they thought they would be somewhere else. They thought they would have done all of these things, and they haven't yet, as if this is some sort of a bad thing. But I think sometimes we can get caught up in holding tightly to an old version of success that no longer suits us. So I think it's super important to just reevaluate, what does success mean to us right now in this version of our lives, in this stage of our lives, and adjust accordingly. I hope this has been helpful for you. Until next time, remember, your better days, they start today.